For everyone who doesn't know this, our lovely Casey is an amazing coach, but they used to be a therapist. So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey from being the therapy to the trainery?
So I was doing therapy like full time for about 7 years. I have my master's in social work and I have a clinical social work license in the state of Indiana. And people joke all the time that social workers can't do one thing for too long. And I think that that's true. So I was definitely ready to make a change. And I'd been working with you in the gym for a while, and I think it started as a joke, and you were like, you should be a personal trainer. And I was like, oh, haha, that's so funny. And then I went ahead and messed around and got my certification just because I like to learn new things. And so that was pretty cool. And then you let me try it out part-time just to see if I would like it. And I really did. It's still helping people, just in a different way. There's actually a lot more in common with being a therapist than you might think. I'm helping people meet goals. I'm providing them with, solutions to their problems, being an encouraging, supportive, safe person in their life. And so I finally decided to make the leap and do it full time.
Awesome. And I know there's a lot of carryover. And by the way, I wasn't joking. I always wanted you to be a trainer because I knew you'd be awesome. I know there's a lot of carryover from therapy to being a coach because, to be honest, some days we are more a therapist than we are a coach. Did you help people, like today's subject is emotional eating, did you help people with emotional eating issues in the past quite a bit, or was that something that you more delved into now that you're a coach?
I mean, stress eating definitely comes up a lot in therapy sessions because we're talking about stressors in general that people have. And a lot of times people deal with stress in some way related to food, whether that's binge eating or calorie counting, not eating at all, or eating very small quantities. Food definitely comes up a lot when we talk about stress and coping skills, sometimes even with anxiety or depression or trauma. I definitely talk about it a lot more now that I'm coaching, but definitely something that was still approached in the therapy room.
If you don't mind, Casey, what are your top 5 recommendations for fighting emotional eating?
So first and foremost, this list is not exhaustive. There are not only 5 ways to help curb your emotional eating. These are just 5 that I would say I suggest to people most often and seem to be the most effective. The first one is keeping a food diary, not in the traditional sense of just logging what you ate and what the calories are or what the macros are necessarily, but thinking of it more along the lines of a journaling exercise that you would do for therapy. Writing down what you eat, but also writing down how you were feeling at the time when you ate it, so that you can try and start to look for some patterns, some triggers, some associations that you can connect between your emotional state and your food. I think you can also get a little more nuanced there with am I eating because I'm stressed, or is it more I'm eating because I need a distraction? Or am I eating because I'm feeling lonely? So writing it down and keeping track of it that way is a really great way to start figuring out what those patterns are and really what your true relationship is with food.
I never thought of that before. The fact that there can be environmental triggers and stuff associated with things causing that to happen. Huh, cool. Learn
Definitely.
every day.
When it comes to emotional eating, we can have lots of different emotions, right? So there might be different emotions tied to different eating patterns. The second thing is thinking about what contributes to your emotional eating as far as factors like stress, boredom, loneliness, anger. Like I said before, when you're writing in your diary, you're going to try and talk about what I was feeling at that time. And then if you know what your patterns are, what your associations are, then you can kind of take the next step and say okay, what am I going to do instead of eat when I'm feeling X, Y, or Z? Because at the end of the day, emotional eating is just a coping skill. Coping skills are never necessarily good or bad, but they can be maladaptive or they can be healthy. So if eating is a maladaptive coping skill that you've developed in order to handle a certain emotion, then we're going to replace it with something that's healthier. So if you can figure out that my eating is associated with stress. So when I'm really stressed out, I'm binge eating. I'm opening up the fridge. I'm getting out that tub of ice cream. You need to look at different stress management strategies and do that instead of eating. So you could do deep breathing. You could try meditation. There are awesome guided meditation playlists on Spotify and YouTube now. You could try going for a walk, exercise. That's a great one. That's a great way to manage stress. If you were looking through your journal and you see that your eating has been tied to more of like being a distraction, when I'm bored or I need a distraction from something going on in my life, I'm eating. So it's okay, well, now I need to find a different way to distract myself. And there are much healthier ways to distract ourselves than eating a bunch of junk food, right? You can talk with a friend. Again, you can always go hit the gym, playing with your pets, playing a video game, watching your favorite TV show. Those are all distractions that don't have to involve food. So that's number 2, is once you figure out the pattern, find a replacement behavior.
Awesome. So basically trying to level up your skill set a little bit so that whenever you're feeling these cravings, you can go and put that energy somewhere else almost.
Exactly. Because you can't just stop doing a coping skill. You have to replace it with something else. Like, someone can't just say, I'm going to stop smoking, and then they just don't
Stop smoking.
Yeah. So they might step down to a patch or to Nicorette gum or to mints or to candy. There's usually some sort of way to switch that behavior into something that's going to be healthier for you.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome.
Next on the list, I have removing temptations. So typically, I think that most people agree when we deal with stress eating or emotional eating, we're usually not like, oh, like I stress ate 5 apples last night or a bunch of broccoli heads. It's usually that comfort food, you know? Candy, ice cream, chips. Chips are a big one.
4
It's
large
stuff that-
pizzas.
Yeah, exactly. It's either just not something that has like a good nutritional balance to begin with, and like you said, it might be like an overwhelming quantity of food. So yes, quantity can definitely play into it too. If you know I have a really, really hard time resisting chocolate, when you go to the grocery store, you're gonna avoid chocolate. So you know I have a really hard time resisting chocolate in my house. Now, ideally, the goal is to get you to a place where like you can have chocolate in your house and know that like you'll have it to enjoy it as a snack, but you are not dependent on it anymore. So until you have broken that dependence, we're gonna stay away from chocolate at the store and grab something healthier instead. Like it can even be something like popcorn or like those popcorners that you eat, Josh.
Mm-hmm. I am a victim of the popcorners. I'm not gonna lie. I eat the crap out of those things.
Grocery shopping is another thing. So like if you say, okay, I'm gonna go to the grocery store and I'm gonna make sure to try and avoid these foods that I have a really hard time resisting, do not go to the grocery store when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling really emotional, because that plays just as much of a part as like in that moment when you are emotional eating. It's if I'm going to the grocery store and emotional or stress grocery shopping, I'm gonna pick out things that are not the best for me. I'm going to pick out those things that are those hard to resist temptation foods.
I never thought about that before, but that's a really good point. Whenever I go stress shopping, I come home and I have a bunch of snacks, but on a single meal.
Mm-hmm. Or like, you know how like everyone says like don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry?
Mm-hmm.
Because you end up getting way more. Don't go to the grocery store when you're stressed out.
That's a good point. That's a good point. What do you do? Never mind. We'll cover that in a different one. I was going to say, what do you do when the grocery store is what stresses you out? But we'll talk about that.
And that'll be our podcast on social anxiety.
Aha! Future podcast.
So the next one kind of ties in with what I talked about with the grocery shopping is snacking healthier. If you feel the urge to eat between your meals, or if you're a person that eats like smaller meals or snacks throughout the day, choose something that's a little bit healthier. Fresh fruit, vegetables, unbuttered popcorn. You can even try to find like lower calorie versions of some of your favorite foods. Technology has really brought us like some advancements in like good tasting food that has a good macro profile. Like I feel like we truly don't live in the age anymore where like all healthy food tastes bad. It really doesn't work like that anymore. There are good options, or there's pretty much I think always going to be a lower calorie or a little bit more nutrient dense option of your favorite treats. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Oh, 100%. We have grapes that taste like cotton candy now. Like, if we can have cotton candy grapes, we can find ice cream that's enjoyable and healthy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the last thing I have is like not punishing yourself if you fall off the wagon a few times. I know Josh has talked about this before, but progress is certainly not linear, right? We don't go from point like A to B. You don't say, okay, I'm going to really work on taking care of my emotional eating, and then you just never do it again. I wish it worked that way, but we are humans. We are not perfect. We're going to struggle. If you're working on your emotional eating, let's say you do really, really awesome for like 2, 3, 4 days. And then on that 5th day, you slip up, you have a binge eating episode, or maybe you take in a lot of excess calories, or you eat that chocolate that you were trying to avoid. Instead of punishing yourself and like feeling like a failure or feeling rejected or feeling like you did something bad or wrong, say, okay, what can I learn from this and do better next time? I'm not going to punish myself. This is a learning experience. What can I do better next time? Because if you punish yourself and just make yourself feel bad, that's going to lead to more big emotions, and that's going to lead to more emotional eating. Every time we fail or fall off the wagon, to me, that's not really a failure. That's just seeing it as a learning opportunity. What can I do better for next time? Maybe I need to take a look at how I'm writing things down in my food journal. Maybe I need to have a friend go grocery shopping with me. Whatever that might be. Take it, learn from it, and then continue to make your progress instead of beating yourself up.
Okay, awesome. So basically, instead of looking at failing as a bad thing, look at it as learning and make sure that you change the outcome next time, right?
Absolutely. I don't believe in failure. If you learn something from it. If you don't learn something from it and you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, then maybe. But it's an opportunity for growth and change.
That's my last podcast was all about that. How once you change your mindset on failing, your whole world opens up, because now it's all just lessons. It's all just lessons.
Absolutely.
Absolutely love. So for someone who didn't get a chance to note all those, what was the quick rundown of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
So the first one was food diary or food journal.
Food diary.
The second one was finding replacement coping skills instead of eating. The third one was removing tempting foods from your home or when you're grocery shopping. The fourth one is finding healthier, more nutrient-dense alternatives. And the fifth one was learning from your setbacks and using it as opportunities to continue to grow and progress.
Awesome. And if someone was just starting out on this right now, would you suggest they try to do all 5 of these things at once? Is there one you would recommend starting with and building on? In what way would you recommend starting this if there's someone who struggles with this severely?
If anytime someone is struggling with someone severely, you can do things here and there, but I really truly feel like you won't make progress until you have addressed the root of the problem. So I think if you do that food diary first, really figure out what the patterns are, what the associations are, and what your true relationship is with food. So that way you can diagnose kind of yourself and say okay, I have this the big umbrella term of emotional eating, but when I break it down, I tend to eat more when I'm stressed. I tend to eat more when I'm angry. I tend to eat more when I'm lonely. That way you really know what the problem is, so that next time when you can identify, say I'm feeling really stressed today, you can already be proactive and know, okay, my brain is going to want to have a tendency to overeat right now. Let's do something different. If you don't have those associations in the first place, it's going to be kind of hard to navigate. So I say, the food diary or something similar first, so you can figure out what those associations or triggers are.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. And that diary could be used for many, many aspects of your life too, even fitness, because I know there's a lot of people who respond to stress in different ways. For example, I'm not one of the people who get stressed and want to go work out. So I have to train myself, I'm in a stressful situation, I need to go work out because I know that will help. But my body's natural instinct isn't to do that. So doing that journal can help in many different ways that I didn't even think of. So that's really cool.
Oh yeah, journaling's always a very popular therapy intervention because it really does work. It really helps you to stop and think about not just the behavior, but why am I doing what I'm doing?
And do you recommend, as someone who's recommended journaling so many times, do you recommend getting something that's just kind of a blank journal book, kind of like this one is, where it's just blank pages? Or do you recommend the kind of guided journals? For example, I have this Hero's Journal one. It tells you to do certain things. Is there a recommendation, or do you recommend just starting simple and going deeper, or what's some good practices when it comes to picking a journal?
Everyone has different preferences. I much prefer guided journaling to just free flow of thought, just whatever on the page. But everyone's different. So I would say probably everyone has either in their home or their workplace a blank notebook. Try it. See if you do just kind of writing down your thoughts and feelings for the day. If that's difficult for you, go grab some sort of guided journal. There's so many out there. I'm sure there are specific journals that even deal with like food. I know they're like goal setting journals. So, like if your goal is to stop emotional eating, you could use one of those like goal tracker type journals and go that route. But I don't say I really recommend one over the other. It's just seeing what fits best for you.
Okay, awesome. And last question on journaling, because I generally want to know, what's some good journaling practices you would recommend? Do you recommend doing this daily, when you're feeling the emotion, or just like making a habit to do in the mornings? Is there like a certain practice you should start implementing with this kind of journaling?
With any type of journaling, it's like you said, you want to make a habit of it. So finding some time to dedicate even just like 5 minutes to do it in the day. Anytime we're talking about a coping skill, like I generally recommend like either do it first thing when you wake up in the morning or before you go to bed at night, because you can use it at the beginning of the day to kind of set the tone for your day, set your intentions and everything. Then you can do it like right before you go to bed when you're winding down for the night and you're ready to kind of just like dump everything out of your brain to get ready to go to bed.
I know for me, it's definitely helped me be a little bit more focused when I do it in the morning, but I also feel more stress relief whenever I do it at night. And I feel like it's a very useful tool, especially whenever it comes to emotional eating, because that would really help you get down into the nitty-gritty of what it is that you are trying to do. I did look up some stuff on this, so I didn't come into it totally ignorant. And one practice that I thought was kind of cool that I wanted to throw in here was putting your journal where you keep your snacks.
I like
whenever
that.
You're craving those snacks, you grab your journal and write down why you want those snacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes we forget to do things in the moment. So having that journal there when you're ready to go. I talked to someone who, one of his previous therapists had him put a jug of water in the fridge and he wrote anxiety on the jug of water. So like anytime he went into the fridge to get a snack or something, his emotion that was tied to eating was anxiety. He just saw that big jug of water that's like, hey, you're feeling anxious right now, aren't you? And you just take a drink from the jug instead. So yeah, putting it somewhere where you know you're going to get into, always a great idea.
Awesome. Well, Casey, I appreciate you helping us out here. And if anyone else has any questions like this, Casey is an amazing coach. They've studied all kinds of fun stuff like this. So I'm sure they won't mind if you reach out to them and ask them some questions for more details. And we'll be doing these lives more frequently now. So if you can think of a topic you'd like us to cover, feel free to drop it below and we'll have a coach specializing in that particular topic to help you out. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Casey?
Just reiterating what Josh said, anytime you have a question or concern, let us know. We will be happy to help you out. That's what we're all about at DH.
Yep, helping the community. That's what we're here for. I appreciate everyone in the community. If you guys have any more questions you want us to cover, we're here for you. Until next time, stay dedicated.